Before we dive into this wonderful, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like, comment, and share with others. Mary J., a powerful mogul, boards her maiden flight in first class aboard her own jet. However, when a flight attendant accuses her of impersonating someone else, things quickly take a turn. Tension escalates, and Bianca is forcibly removed from the plane. Continue watching to uncover the shocking truth behind her ejection. Will Leela get the justice she deserves? Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. Mary J. had always prided herself on her poise, self-assurance, and unyielding focus on the business that had built her empire. In her 30s, she had successfully acquired a fleet of aircraft and recently added a state-of-the-art jet to her collection. She had been eagerly anticipating its maiden flight, a new chapter in her career and life. She had meticulously planned her journey to New York, where high-stakes meetings awaited, the kind that could redefine markets. Excellence was the only acceptable outcome for this trip. Upon arriving at the airport, Mary received the swift and respectful service she was accustomed to as a high-profile passenger. Her ticket was scanned, allowing her to breeze through security. Entering the luxurious first-class lounge, she was greeted with warm smiles, the excitement of her journey palpable in the air. Boarding the plane, she felt a sense of calm as the soft hum of the jet engines provided an odd reassurance. Settling into her plush, spacious first-class seat, she sighed contentedly. This was her moment of respite before diving into business. As the last few passengers filed in, Bianca adjusted her seatbelt and opened her tablet, preparing for the first of many meetings. However, just as she was getting comfortable, a flight attendant approached her with an uneasy expression. "Excuse me, ma'am," the attendant said, her smile failing to reach her eyes. "Could I see your ticket?" Slightly confused, Bianca handed it over with a polite nod. "I've already been cleared at the gate," she replied, her tone steady but carrying a hint of curiosity. The attendant examined the ticket before scrutinizing Bianca's face with suspicion. "This ticket is for a first-class seat, but..." She hesitated. "You don't look like someone who could afford it." Mary raised an eyebrow but remained composed. "I assure you I can. I personally purchased this ticket, as I have for all my flights." She offered her credentials, feeling no need to prove herself, but doing so anyway. The attendant's eyes narrowed. "How do I know you're really who you say you are?" She placed the ticket on the seat and folded her arms. A murmur spread through the cabin as passengers exchanged concerned glances. "Why are you bothering her?" One finally spoke up. "She's shown you her ticket. It's clearly valid. Just leave her alone." The flight attendant ignored them, maintaining her glare. "I'm just doing my job." Leah leaned back in her seat, her mind racing. What was happening here? Did she not look like someone who could afford such a ticket? Just as she thought the matter was settled, the flight attendant disappeared down the aisle. Mary sighed, believing she had finally been left alone. However, minutes later, the attendant returned with an airport security officer and another man who had seemingly just boarded. "I've received complaints," the security officer said sternly, addressing Bianca. "We have reason to believe you're sitting in someone else's seat. I'm going to need you to vacate it immediately." Mary's patience was wearing thin. Meeting the officer's gaze, she remained calm. "I'm not impersonating anyone. I purchased this ticket, and it's valid. You can check it." The attendant remained unfazed. "We don't need to check it," she snapped. "We're not interested in your excuses. Please leave now." Mary stood up slowly, her mind racing through possible scenarios. Taking a deep breath, she spoke again, her voice firm. "I am here to enjoy the maiden flight of this plane, which I happen to own. I purchased this ticket for this very flight, so no, I'm not leaving." The flight attendant and the security officer refused to listen. Without further discussion, they forcibly escorted her off the plane. As she exited, the gloating voice of the man who had taken her seat reached her ears. "It really pays to have a girlfriend who's a flight attendant. I only paid for an economy seat, and here I am flying first class. New York is going to be amazing." Mary stopped in her tracks, her fury building. She turned back toward the plane, locking eyes with the passengers who had watched in silence. "You're making a big mistake," she said, her voice eerily calm. "You'll regret this. I assure you." Once outside, she pulled out her phone and quickly made a call. Back inside the plane, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Attention, all passengers on Flight 1125. We are experiencing delays that will affect our departure time. Please bear with us while technical issues are resolved. We will depart shortly." Leah stood by the terminal wall, her phone pressed to her ear. Speaking directly to the officer in charge of security, her voice turned sharp. "I want that officer terminated." The officer didn't hesitate. Within minutes, the problematic security officer was summoned, questioned, and dismissed on the spot. Meanwhile, the flight attendant who had orchestrated Bianca's ejection sat smugly next to her boyfriend in first class. "I did this for you, honey," she whispered. "I know you've never flown first class before. It'll just be you and me in New York. You deserve this." Smiling, she believed she had won. But the next moment, a police officer appeared beside her. Her expression quickly shifted to shock. "Are you Victoria Carter?" the officer asked. "We've been sent by airport authorities. Your service has been terminated, effective immediately." The flight attendant blinked in disbelief.
What?
"Why?" The officer continued. "You forcibly removed a passenger named Bianca Robson, the owner of this aircraft, from her seat. Do you realize the gravity of your actions?" Her face drained of color.
I'm sorry.
"I was wrong," she stammered. "I did it for my boyfriend. It wasn't supposed to go this far." The officer shook his head. "You are to leave the premises immediately. Your employer will be in touch." Mary watched as the flight attendant and her boyfriend were escorted out, the latter muttering apologies, now regretting his misguided scheme. Justice, though slow, was unfolding. The woman who had humiliated her for personal gain was facing the consequences. Her boyfriend, too, shared in the disgrace. With the ordeal behind her, Bianca refocused. She had a plane to board, on her own terms. Minutes later, she was back in her seat, pristine and untouched. The disgraced flight attendant was gone. The rogue security officer was dismissed. And most importantly, Mary J., the rightful owner of this aircraft, was in control. The seatbelt sign flickered on. The engines roared to life. Soon, the intercom buzzed again. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We are now cleared for departure. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy your flight." Justice had been served, and Mary was ready for her next chapter.